I think I'm a slightly odd landscape photographer. Well, Mrs. T would certainly agree with the odd bit anyway. I'm an odd landscape photographer because I don't like wide-angle lenses necessarily, particularly not ultra-wides, which I tend to avoid. I quite often shoot with telephotos instead. Now, I have made a video about the Olympus 40-150 that I use a lot, and it's a very good lens, and there'll be a link up there probably. But recently I bought myself the Olympus 75-300mm lens, the Mark II version, just to put it through its paces to see what it would be like as an everyday lens. So this video is about what I think about this lens, its good points and its bad points, and why I tend to shoot with telephoto lenses for landscape. Now, I'm here at Wydon Reservoir, which is just outside Hexham, on the fringes of Hexham, and I think it's a fantastic spot. There's some wildlife, well, ducks and sparrows anyway, which I think count as wildlife, so I'll be shooting that, but also flowers and vegetation and insects possibly, so I'll be putting this lens through its paces. So I'll roll the intro and we'll get going. The first good thing about this lens is that it's so small. It's really light, so it packs down nicely. I do a lot of walking as I'm doing my landscape photography, so anything that reduces the weight in my camera bag is a good thing. And this is so light because it's plastic, but I don't have a problem with that. I've found that plastic lenses are quite often just as good as metal lenses. They do bounce more readily too, which is a good thing, particularly if you are prone to dropping them. That does have a few disadvantages. It does feel a little bit cheap. I certainly don't like the focusing ring, which feels like a really limp handshake. It just, yeah, that really doesn't feel very tactile at all. I'm not keen on that. But that said, I do tend to use autofocus anyway, so it's not a huge deal breaker. It's quite a slow lens. It's f4.8 at the shortest end and f6.7 at the longest. So that is quite a change in the aperture, the maximum aperture, when you're zooming in and out. So that doesn't make it ideal for video, say. But if it was faster, and obviously faster is better in many ways, if it was a faster lens, it'd be far heavier, which would then make it obviously bigger and bulkier, and you'd lose the advantage of it being so small and lightweight. So in many respects, even though f6.7 at the long end is very slow, I think I'd prefer that and keep the lens nice and light than having it faster and heavier and more bulky. So it's one of those weird compromises that you sometimes have to put up with this kind of lens. But it's perfectly pleasant to use. One quirk of the lens design is that even though it's quite compact at 75mm, when you zoom to 300mm, it extends quite considerably. Now, I'm not a fan of lenses that extend as you zoom. I much prefer an internal zoom, but it does make it very compact at the 75mm, like I say, so that doesn't take up much room in your camera bag, which of course leaves far more room for sandwiches, which is the important thing. So even though it looks, I think it looks strange when it's fully extended, I'm prepared to live with that, just for the fact that it's so compact when it's unextended. Now, I'm not a wildlife photographer, though I do like to indulge in it, quite often accidentally. There's so much knowledge you have to have as a wildlife photographer, which I don't have, in terms of the behaviour of the animals and where they're likely to be at particular times of day. I don't have that. But there are some ducks here, and I think they count as wildlife. they can certainly get quite tetchy when they don't get the bread that they're expecting. So I'm going to give that a go for a few minutes using the AI subject detection option on my Olympus OM1. Makes life so much easier. And because it's not a very fast lens, particularly at the long end, which is where I'm using it, f6.7, where I don't think it's at its sharpest either, I tend to shoot at f8 at that particular focal length. And that does mean, even though it's a bright day today, I'm having to increase the ISO in order to get a fast enough shutter speed. So I'm going to watch these ducks for a little bit and see what happens. If I do manage to shoot anything, I'll put it on after this. Turn the camera on first though. Another great thing about this lens is that it's so cheap, especially compared to the pro lenses in Olympus's lineup, OM-Systems lineup. Must get used to saying that. Particularly compared to the pro lenses, which are of a similar focal range to this. I mean, this is equivalent in full frame terms to 150 to 600, which for £250, which is what I paid for this second hand. I mean, that's something of a bargain, isn't it? You may disagree, of course, but I think that's money well spent. And I suspect if I was to sell it on, I'm not sure yet whether I keep it or not. I suspect I will, but if I don't, I can't imagine I'm going to lose that much money on it. I might be able to sell it for 180, 200 possibly. So yeah, I think this is quite a bargain, despite its slightly cheap feel. But I'm all for a bargain. Now this lens is not a macro lens, and for the life of me I can't remember what the minimum focusing distance is, nor what the magnification factor is, so I'll put them on screen nowish. But I have been using it a lot for flower photography, and I've got this shot set up initially of, and I'm going to have to look these up, and again I'll put them on screen. I'm not sure what this flower is, but I'm focusing on the main flower at 300mm, and even though I'm shooting at f8, the background, because it's sufficiently far away, so it's got a three-dimensional scene, the background is nicely out of focus. And in terms of the bokeh, I think it's great. It's really smooth and very pleasing, so I'm very happy with that. So yes, even though it's not a macro lens, I think it's really good for flower photography, as long as you can get far enough back and as long as the flower isn't too small. These are relatively large in size, so that's helping a lot. So I'll get this shot taken, and again, we'll see what that looks like after this. I've just spotted these Teasels, and I think they look great. There's a slight purpleness to them, and behind, in the far distance, about 10-20 meters away, are some yellow and rusty brown coloured plants. And I think that combination of purple, yellow and brown is quite striking. So I'm going to shoot the Teasel. I'll find a Teasel head that I like. Shoot as wide open as I can. It's actually quite breezy at the moment, so the Teasel heads are bobbing around quite a lot. So I'm going to have to wait for the breeze to die down a little bit, I think, so they're nice and still and steady. But by shooting wide open, the background's nicely out of focus. And again, like I say, the bokeh, I think, works really well on this lens. It is very smooth. So I think that's going to be, hopefully, it's going to be quite an interesting shot with that yellow-brown purple combination. So I'll get it shot and we'll put that on screen after this. Ooh, it's hot today. The heat wave that's been blanketing the UK had sort of receded over the weekend, but it's come back with a vengeance. So I think I may not be out for too much longer. I really don't want to have heat stroke. That's never a good thing. But I did mention earlier that I often shoot with a telephoto in preference to a wide angle, so I should explain that before I call it a day. And it's largely because of the relationship between the foreground and the background. With a wide angle lens tends to push things apart visually, so the background will always look smaller than it does to the eye, and it's the foreground that's the key element. So if you've got a good strong foreground, that's great, but the background is very much the support act. The telephoto lens, and even quite a moderate telephoto lens, so a 50mm or 25mm in micro four thirds format, 50mm in full frame terms, that can help pull the foreground and the background closer together visually. And that's a look I tend to prefer. I like the fact that the background is as important an element in the image as the foreground. But there's no right or wrong answer to this, and it's not necessarily how I shoot every time. But for me, yeah, it's that relationship that I really like, that background, foreground, where the two things have an equal weight sort of visually. Do let me know what you do, what you prefer in terms of lenses, whether you prefer wide angles or telephotos. As ever, I'm keen to know and to learn, and I think getting different opinions is a good way to learn. And of course, I do like my details. So with a telephoto lens, I can very quickly swap from shooting the landscape with a very quick twist of the zoom ring to shooting details. And on that subject, I'm shooting next to some meadowsweet, which is nicely backlit, and I do like my backlit lighting, I must admit. So I'm going to shoot those, and then we'll come to some sort of conclusion about this lens. So, what do I think of this lens? Well, I have made myself some notes. I have been using it for a few months, so I am getting a feel for what works and what doesn't work. So let's have a look at my notes. A few of them I've already mentioned. There's no weather sealing, so I wouldn't take this out in very wet conditions, I must admit. No chance of that today though, so that's good. I've mentioned the aperture. It is quite a slow lens, but if it was any faster, it would be bigger and bulkier and probably more expensive, and that would defeat the purpose of this lens, which is to be a nice, relatively inexpensive, long telephoto. So it's a compromise I'm happy to work with. What have we got? Yeah, the sharpness does drop off at 300mm, and I do find myself stopping down to F8 to try and get it a bit sharper. It does improve by stopping down. For landscapes, that's absolutely fine. But for wildlife, I could see that being an issue, because if you want to maintain a fast shutter speed, but without compromising on the ISO, you really don't want to be stopping it down any further than f6.7. There's no stabilization in the lens, so you're relying entirely on the in-body image stabilization. Why are these things so hard to say? Which isn't as effective with telephoto lenses. So again, some optical stabilization wouldn't go amiss, but once more, that would make the lens more expensive and slightly bulkier. So if using it on a tripod, of course, this isn't an issue. And I have to admit, I have mentioned the sharpness, but sometimes it has been user error, where I either haven't used a fast enough shutter speed and the image stabilization hasn't been able to cope, or it's been too dim and dark. So sometimes I think, when I think the image isn't sharp because of the lens, it's because I've got it wrong. I haven't been looking at the shutter speed closely enough and not realised that I'm getting camera shake rather than optical unsharpness. What else have we got? Build quality, yeah, it's obviously built to a price. The focus ring, like I say, I don't like, but I quite often just shoot with autofocus anyway, so that's not really a huge issue. And yeah, the zoom extension, that's it is quite a comical lens in that sense. But overall, I really like this lens, and yeah, I think it is a keeper, just purely because it's so light. It doesn't really weigh that much. Again, I can't remember what the weight is, and I'll put that on screen after this with a few other specifications. Yeah, so it just fits in nicely into my camera bag, and it adds a bit of capability without stressing my poor back too much, which is a good thing. So I think this could be a keeper. Yeah, I think that probably is. So there's a lot to like about it. It's not perfect by any means, but who is? I'm not perfect, and I do okay, I think. But anyway, yes, I hope that's been useful. I hope you've enjoyed this sort of review. Like I said, I'm going to call it a day before heat stroke kicks in. If you have found it useful, or if you've enjoyed it, please do like it, share it, and if you've not already, please do subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you next week, somewhere in Northumberland. I haven't quite decided yet. I'm as free as a bird. Oh, I also forgot to mention, like I say in my last video, I was in Hexham Abbey running an exhibition, and I had a visitor who'd seen the video a fortnight ago, John, who came in, which was great to meet John. John shared his website with me, and you can visit John's website by somewhere on screen. There'll be a QR code and the website address, so please do visit John's website. It's excellent. And yeah, that was good fun to meet someone. So, and I really like that social aspect of photography in that way. So yeah, that was great. But anyway, I shall see you in 7 days' time, hopefully. So have a very pleasant week until then.